today's segment on US LLM tips with IG. I'm always happy to have you and to be in front of your screens, not because I love being on the screen. But because I feel like you're here because you want to do things differently, right? You're here because you want to find out more. You want to come here armed with a lot of information, and that's what I'm here to provide as much support that I can with. So today we'll be talking about everything masters in intellectual property law. I promised that I was going to do segments on different types of masters, so that when you are applying to come to a school here, you know what you're coming for. I came with very little information, right? And so as much as possible, I'm trying to correct that. I'm trying to provide more facts out there. So let's get right on it and let's talk about masters in intellectual property law. What is a masters in intellectual property law? This question takes me straight to the classroom because that was such a complex question. But what is intellectual property law? I won't go too deep. All I will say is that it looks at laws and policies that seek to protect creativity, foster innovation in our world today, right? So look at everything in the world. Practically everything is underlined by one type of intellectual property, right? As the word rightly says, intellectual property looks at creations and inventions of the mind. So think about anything that you can create. To a large extent, think about your cars, think about the portrait behind you, think about your movies, your books, right? The things with this type of property is that they are intangible, right? What that means is that someone can, easily replicate it. Someone can take a picture of this portrait and start selling similar copies, and that's where IP comes in, because when you invent and when you create, you invest time in it, right? And so laws need to be in existence to protect your intellectual property. So let's move right on to the next thing. What are the classes that are important for you as an IP specialist? I think copyright, trademark, trade secrets, patent. I hope I'm not missing any other thing. Think of the area that you want to specialize in, and really focus on those areas. But I think those 5 I mentioned are the most important, that I feel like every IP specialist should have some sort of knowledge about. But I went to the University of Washington School of Law. I think it really has a very nice program for intellectual property. But it's not the only program, of course. I will provide some information about more schools in the description box, but I think NYU is a good school for intellectual property. UC Berkeley of Law is also a good school for intellectual property. Penn State is also a good school for intellectual property. But feel free to do more of your research. Remember, there's a lot that goes into picking your school. I'll do a separate segment on that. But these are some of the schools that are really good for intellectual property. So the next question is, what opportunities are out there for an IP attorney? And I want to tell you guys, the IP industry is hot. Like, IP law is hot. Like, I feel like as an IP attorney, you can never run out of a job unless you're not trying to grow in this field, right? As an IP attorney, you can work anywhere. I first of all want to disabuse our minds of that, fallacy that you have to have some sort of science background or science degree before you're able to do a master's in IP or specialized intellectual property. That is not true, right? I don't have any of that, and I specialize in intellectual property. It's because patent, which is a field of intellectual property, may require some sort of science or tech background to write up a patent. But I don't specialize in that. As I said, intellectual property is a broad field, right, that has copyright, trademark, trade secrets, right? I do more with the copyright, trademarks, trade secrets, rights of publicity kind of area. And so what that usually entails is a lot of licensing works, contract review. So let me go straight to the other question of what opportunities are there. There are a lot of opportunities for IP attorney. You can work in a law firm, you can work in in-house in a company, you can work in the pharmaceutical industry, in the tech industry. I mean, you can work everywhere and anywhere, That's what I genuinely believe. You can work everywhere and anywhere. In fact, if you scroll through like job descriptions for a lot of attorney positions in the US, they will always, to a large extent, you always see intellectual property specialization preferred. In a lot of, not all, but in a lot of job descriptions, right? Because the market for it is really hot now, right? So you can work everywhere. There are a lot of opportunities for you. Every company has some sort of products that they need to protect the intellectual property law, and your expertise is really needed, right? So there are opportunities for you, and I welcome you. I welcome you to our field. Okay. What do I do every day? I feel like that's a very deep question. But I do a lot of things every day. I advise, I draft contracts, and I advise and advise and advise. Right? I advise on a lot of products. I review a lot of contracts, and I draft a lot of agreements, review a lot of agreements. That's the work of an IP attorney. But the most interesting thing about being an IP attorney for me is that you get to work with creatives, you get to work with innovators, right? You're always advising, like someone who wants to write, maybe write music or come up with a music album. They need your advice. They need your advice on how to protect their intellectual property, how to ensure that no one copies their song, especially on the internet now, where everything is just easily copied and reproduced without the author's permission, right? So you are needed. I interned in a tech company, and what happened back then was that it was always exciting for me to see new products in the market that I advised on, right? So let's say a software company wants to come up with this product, they need your advice. How do we protect this? What steps do we take? How do we protect the copyright, the trademark? There's trade secrets in this. How do we make sure that it's not leaked to the world? You play a crucial role, and then you go out in the market and you see a product that you advise, and you're like, girl, how much do IP attorneys earn? They earn a lot of money in the US. I feel like, they do, but on a range, I'll give a range of 80,000 to as high as 200,000 and above, right? To as high as 200,000 and above. So the industry is really hot. If you love working with creatives, if you're an innovative person, I feel like this is a space that is for you. Give it a shot, right? Ask more questions. If you want to connect more with me, I will provide my LinkedIn link. But I'll provide a way for you to connect with me via LinkedIn, and we can talk more about intellectual property and what you're interested in. But I hope this was informative for you. I hope that you feel like, okay, you know a bit more about intellectual property. And I want to say thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to spread the news about what I'm doing here. And also, please ask questions, because through your questions, I'm able to make content. Through your questions, I'm able to create segments on what addresses your questions. So ask questions in the comment section about what you would like to know more. And I can't wait to see you on the next segment. Have a good one. Bye.